We're back, and in this video I'm comparing the best online tax services for this tax season. With so many different tax companies out there and most of them wanting to take a chunk out of your return, we're looking at the most popular online tax services: TurboTax, H&R Block, and Cash App Taxes. These companies will cover most viewers out there as they all share similar features, but in order to compare them properly, we're going to need to look at a few categories such as the price, how user-friendly the services are, the time it takes to complete your return, what services are covered by the company, and what their customer support is like. All of these are required so that you have an effective tax filing season and you can cut out the headaches from trying to figure out how much money you should get back or how much you owe. And let's start off with the most popular tax service out there thanks to their global campaigning and lobbying to keep the tax codes difficult: TurboTax. Now, a common theme that we're going to see among most of these providers is that they offer different tiers depending on what type of service you need for your tax report. TurboTax has a huge variety of tiers that they offer, and you can even file for free, provided that you meet these conditions. But what if you don't have a simple return, or you need to make just a few more adjustments? For all your state filings, it's going to be the same amount. It's a flat $40 depending on how many states that you need to file in between all of the tiers. But between their deluxe, premier, and self-employed tiers, you're going to have to be paying $40, $70, and $90 respectively just to file federally. These prices are the highest on the list, but what you're paying for is software that actually works. Intuit, the parent company of TurboTax, lobbies to make the tax code as difficult as possible so they can sell software to us to dumb it down. And while it may be a scummy service, they certainly do a good job at it. By far, I can say that this software is the best software to use if you're looking for a hassle-free time. They use an interview-styled approach as if you're working with an agent, offering tips and a searchable database along the way. Some other features include auto-importing your W-2s, uploading your crypto or stock transactions directly into the software, starting the process on one device such as your cell phone or laptop, then seamlessly transitioning over to your computer and still having the same report. Anytime that you're able to automate the information that's sent into the software, it's going to cut down on mistakes that you make, and it's going to save you time, which brings us to point 3. The average American spends 13 hours per tax season just to prepare the return, which jumps up to 24 hours if you're a business filer. While every tax situation is different, the less time that you have to manually input data for the IRS, the more time that you will save. And while this feature of finding the best deductions for you isn't limited just to TurboTax, their software does make it very convenient where you don't need to enter too much extra information, and they'll find all the deductions for you. This makes it so you don't need to research all these various breaks out there that could apply to you, where they're just going to find it for you instead. You will notice, however, that there are some pages when you're using the software that are going to waste more of your time, and that's because they're constantly trying to upsell you on more services. Now, as for the services offered by TurboTax, it completely depends on your tier. The free tier is for W-2 income, the IRS standard deduction, earned income tax credit, child tax credits, and student loan interest deduction. But if you're not able to capitalize on the free return, then you're able to go to the deluxe tier, which helps you maximize your deductions and will allow you to itemize your return. But it's more likely that if you don't qualify for the free tier, you'll probably be with the premier tier or the self-employed tier. The premier tier will help you with stock, crypto, and even real estate income, whereas self-employed will get you those juicy deductions and help with depreciation on your assets. And the last thing to cover with TurboTax is how is their customer support. Their menus are extremely interactive, always giving you some extra information for things that you don't quite understand. But if you just love to throw away money and not on $4 iced coffee, then they offer custom tiers for you where somebody can help you all the way and they're a trained tax professional. Now, don't get me wrong, that's a huge cost to add to your return, but it's way less than you'd have to pay if the IRS audits you because you entered bad information. But what if you don't want to use TurboTax because you had a bad experience with them in the past? That's where H&R Block comes in handy. H&R Block also has a free filing option if you have a simple return. And while most of the restrictions to be considered a simple return are the same as TurboTax, H&R Block has a few extra options, such as being able to use your schedules 1, 2, and 3 with no extra cost. They also offer paid tiers that range from $35 to $85 if you're filing federally, and states always cost $37. So the costs of H&R Block and TurboTax aren't really that different. And the software is pretty similar too, with H&R Block maybe having slightly worse software, but basically they're the same. You still have access to uploading documents by taking physical photos, having error checking at every single step along the way, the ability to start your state return using your federal information to save you extra time, and a whole bunch of automation features. The difference with the H&R software is that it doesn't feel as much like an interview when you're going through the tax process. This means that you can jump around anywhere in your tax filing and hopefully you don't get lost. But even if you do, you can still go to the banner at the top left and you'll be able to navigate your way through the menus. But while the software may work in a different way, you can expect very similar completion times with H&R Block. The amount of manual entries is minimized. You can still import spreadsheets when necessary, especially for your deductions, and you'll still receive those background checks along the way, so you don't have to redo your entire report because you messed up one box in a different area. H&R Block takes a similar approach where it depends on what tier you sign up for what benefits you'll get out of the filing. As mentioned earlier, with the free report, you're actually able to file schedules 1, 2, and 3 and not have to pay an extra dime for it. However, if we want to itemize our deduction or we may have child and daycare expenses, we're going to have to go the deluxe route for these options. The premium tier is going to cover our crypto transactions, stock transactions, and real estate income. Then for anything not covered up to this point, such as if you own your own business, the self-employed tier should have you covered, where you can enter all your deductions, figure out depreciation, and other complicated calculations. And while H&R Block also offers additional tiers if you want live assistance, the big difference from TurboTax is that they also have brick and mortar stores. That means if you started your report and you feel like halfway through you're not going to be able to finish this without assistance, you can go down to an H&R place and they'll help you out with your filing. This will help tremendously compared to the other choices, but it will also add to your total cost. So only do this if completely necessary. But what if we're pretty good at taxes, even if our return is a little bit more complicated? Then Cash App Taxes has you covered. And the best part about Cash App Taxes is that it's totally free. So if you're looking for the best option because of price, Cash App easily has you covered here. Now, as for how user-friendly the services are, things get a little dicier here. If you're like me or most other people and you want to file your taxes on your laptop or computer, it gets a little bit strange. You first have to download Cash App, then log in through your phone and verify the information, then it'll let you continue on your computer. Or if you want to skip all of that, you can just file your taxes on your phone. Just remember that by doing this, you're going to make your importing a lot more tedious and it's going to add to your total time it takes to complete your tax return. The software that Cash App uses is definitely more bare bones. You're still able to import files such as your W-2, so you won't be wasting too much time there, and it'll calculate deductions that you need along the way. But if you have a bunch of stock transactions, this is going to get messy. The interface, while lacking a lot of knowledge sections, still gets the job done. It's super easy to input your data in one section and it'll feed right into the next one, as it should as an online tax provider. It follows a pretty structured filing by first going through your basic info, income, expenses, then filing for review. If you're good at your taxes and you know what you're doing, this will likely be the fastest way that you can file your return. If you found yourself only needing the deluxe tier from other providers, then Cash App is perfect for you. However, if you like to trade assets or if you're self-employed, this is going to be a lot messier than you may think. If you own crypto or stock and you make a lot of transactions, you're allowed to make a summarized entry of all of your trades, which should cut down on a lot of time. But if you mess up one thing in your summarized entry, the IRS may be in contact with you. And I didn't see any way to input your 1099-B, so this could mean a lot of manual inputs if you mess something up. Similarly, for a business, I found this to be extremely long and tedious if you have a lot of deductions to enter. There's no way to pull a spreadsheet from information that you could have into the tax software, so you have to go line by line trying to add every single deduction that you have. If you're self-employed, in my opinion, this basically rules out the tax service for you. But what does Cash App actually offer for their services? Well, they're a little bit more limited here as well. You aren't allowed to do multiple state returns, non-resident state returns, increased standard deduction, and a whole list of other things that weren't covered. The nice thing is that when you start your filing is that it'll check these things right away. So you're not going to get to the end of your filing and then figure out you can't actually use them anymore. For 95% of filers out there, you'll be covered and you won't have to worry about this. And then for customer support, you won't find much. They do have an adequate help section, as well as a live chat for tax questions, but they're not going to be answered by any tax professionals. You'll still get help if you have issues with the software itself, but if you have issues with your taxes or you don't understand something, you might be out of luck. Now, everybody has a different tax situation, so finding the correct software for you to use to file your report is extremely important. If the price doesn't bother you, you want to have the easiest experience possible, I recommend TurboTax. It does a great job at dumbing down the tax code so that anybody can do it. And for a similar price and pretty comparable software, but you don't want to have constant advertisements, H&R Block might be a good choice for you as well. It will offer the same services that TurboTax can offer, but it might be a little bit harder to navigate. Just remember that if you need help, you can always go to a brick and mortar store, and they should help you there as well for an additional charge. But if you want that strong DIY approach because you have a pretty easy return, which I imagine most people do, Cash App Taxes might be the place for you. While I cannot recommend this software if you're self-employed or you do a bunch of stock transactions, I will say that it is very easy to use if you have a simple return. Plus, I really appreciate the price of free. If you liked the video, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.